was why for a long time in my spiritual path journey, I was hidden from the world a lot because I kept disconnecting from society because I saw that it took me off my center and got me caught in the trap of that world of like, well, now I'm chasing this thing. And so I would go back into like my little meditation bubble. I lived at the beach for a couple of years and I would just be like, because I would feel bigger when I was more attuned to the infinite, right? Obviously, than when I was on Facebook. And for me, it's been this dance of how do I maintain, like maybe I'll have a day of silence. Tomorrow I'm going to the beach to that so I can just like attune to nature and myself and my own psyche, and then come back and bring the medicine of my work and play the game in this world that we live in.
Welcome to the 1000 Days Sober podcast. My name is Lee Davey. I'm not an alcoholic. I refuse to be anonymous. I am someone that doesn't drink alcohol. And I spend every waking moment helping other people do the same, like right now. Booyah! Okay. Your guest today is Michelle Coutinho. Michelle Coutinho is a healer, songstress, and empowerment coach who helps spiritual men and women attune to a deeper sense of resonance with their voice, presence, and personal power. She is the creator of Vocal Alchemy and Embodiment, a process that rewires the energetic nervous system using the voice as a gateway to the subtle body to create a sense of lightness and expansion that releases stored trauma from the mental and emotional body and heals the psyche on a multi-dimensional level. She guides transformational meditations, co-creates ceremonial spaces that offer deeply connected, heart-centered embodiment practice through mantra, prayer, and sound healing to create a sense of inner peace and true enlightenment. Her transmissions weave together the lineages of Shamanism, Bhakti yoga, Jewish ancestry, and Native American wisdom. I met Michelle while I was in a couple of coaching containers called Kaboom and The Leap from the mighty brains of Preston Smiles and Zion Kim. And the reason I got Michelle on here actually is because she scares me a little bit. What I mean by that is she's the complete opposite of who I was when I was growing up, right? Like if Michelle turned up where I lived when I grew up, I think she was some sort of freaky witch or something. It would freak me out. And I would have a very narrow-minded, closed-minded, pessimistic view about her beliefs and her thought processes and the way that she looks at the world. And through my recent teachings with the likes of Zion and Preston and being in the presence of people like Michelle and seeing their work firsthand, really allowing me to open my mind more, live in a more conscious way, and be more accepting that I have no clue about what I don't know that I don't know, and to have more of an open mind. So getting Michelle on here was a challenge for me to talk about stuff that I'm really uncomfortable doing, and I'm going to be doing that a lot moving forward. And I loved every minute of my conversation with her. She's an absolute gem. She has this wonderful, beautiful, serene kind of energy around her and makes you feel very welcoming and very loving. And she's definitely on a different level than I am. And so I really enjoyed our conversation. So without much ado, oh, and by the way, before I get you into Michelle, do the same thing. All right, do the same thing. If there's someone in your circle or just outside your circle do you feel a little bit uncomfortable around because you're not quite, you have a different paradigm when you look at the world, engage in dialogue with them, engage in discourse, and see if you can learn something. All right. Okay, so without further ado, I'll leave you in the capable hands of Michelle Coutinho. Michelle Coutinho, that is a cat.
He's quite a cat.
That is quite a cat. That is a witch's cat. Are you a witch? Do you call yourself a witch?
I've been a witch.
Explain that to me.
There's a meme that's on one of my altars in my healing room actually, and it's had a picture of an old crone, the picturesque witch, and a little young girl who's probably like 6 or 7, and she's standing on a pedestal, and the witch is bestowing a witch's hat on her. And it says, to be a witch is to be a woman, a healing. I'm not going to remember it exactly, but it's healing, a teacher, I almost want to grab it. To be a witch is to be a healer, a teacher. If you are called to walk this path, may you walk it with integrity. And that is my
to be a witch is to be a wise woman who is a teacher and a healer and someone who is attuned with the medicine of the earth and the animals and the plants and the wisdom. And there is so much power in that and demonization of that from people who that's threatening to, who are more in the collective consciousness, that because witches are outsiders. So in that space, I am a healing medicine woman who is a practitioner of magic because I do energy healing and sound healing and live a bit outside of society, and my mission in this life is bringing it into society and also reclaiming and helping. The specific thing that I heal mostly is that women are so afraid to embody their power and their voice and their magic in the world in public because of what has happened to us as a collective consciousness. And so they don't want to be coined as a witch. So they play very, very small in society. And so a lot of my claiming the word witch is to reclaim that magic and that power and that potency from what we put in the shadow. We put the dark, we demonize things, but it really just creates a split and perversion, if you will, of those things versus actually honoring their magic and their majesty and their importance.
So you're standing up there and saying, hey, it's okay to be a witch. It's more than okay to be a witch. It's a super empowering, liberating, life-changing.
So many women out there, and something that I kind of have a beef with is like so many women out there. So spirituality is quite trendy now, yeah. And there are so many people who are like claiming to be really like, the glam side, if you will, of like, I'm a witch, I'm a this, I'm a that. Like, again, these are the perversions of our culture of like the commerce culture.
Yeah.
Taking ownership of things that are sacred for the benefit of exploitation and power, like power over. But like, if you are really like the witches that I work with, like they're terrified of actually owning their power because their power is so big and having a magic life or being a priestess is not like a road of ease. It's not like rainbows and butterflies. Like you're constantly dying, like shamanic death and ego death. And like letting, like growing is not, transpersonal work is not the easy road. And so when we're fully in service to a path that is like, and I'm not a practicing Wiccan or witchcraft in that way. I'm a priestess. I'm a practitioner of
priestess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I got millions of questions to ask you on this. First of all, for the people, hey, look, what's it say in your cup?
It's a Year of the Snake. I've gotten this cup in 2015. And I took it on a road trip. Philosophical, intuitive, attentive, organized, intelligent, decisive. This is my mother's A Year of the Snake. Yours is?
Mine says, I live in abundance. I'm a money magnet. I change the world with my money, and I am worthy of positive change in my life.
Let's drink to that.
Drink to that. Could you describe to people listening who might not be used to these terms, what is the collective consciousness and when did you unplug yourself from it?
I think I was born unplugged from it. So Carl Jung is the one who coined that term, collective unconscious. And it means that there's a, wow. Yeah, his psyche is, he's unplugged from the matrix himself. And so I'm probably going to get Jung's definition wrong, but the collective unconscious is basically a conditioned story of reality that we all buy into as a society. And our society is shaped by a paradigm of certain beliefs. And right now, and for the last 6,000 years or so, we've lived in a patriarchal society where the church has been really the governance of how to be in this world and our connection to source. And with the witches specifically, they were like, you have to go through us. You cannot have magic and power on your own, really as a way of oppressing the feminine, the dark, the feminine, the mysterious. And I have a really strong belief that in order to have true feminine empowerment, we must build right relationship and respect the masculine. And I feel like we kind of swung the pole the other way, which needed to happen. Obviously, I wasn't alive in the 70s. My mother was, but I know that was and all of us in 30s when we were voting, and all of those women it was perfect. And there's a little bit overstepping. It's still power over, power under, versus like true, like reverent collaboration. And I feel like I'm bringing healing to that for myself and for all of us. Like that's a big part of my mission that I'm stepping into, which is the repair of the masculine feminine dynamics. Because right now in the collective consciousness of this planet, they're at war with each other and trying to get power over each other. And we all feel it. We feel it we're at war with the masculine and feminine parts of our own bodies. Like, I'm too driven, or I'm too loosey-goosey. I don't have time management, like bringing that into integration. And then also in our relationships, like really respecting each other. So important, right? But we don't do it. We play power games because this is what's out there. This is what we're taught. This is what's modeled. Abuse is modeled to us.
Talk about power over a little bit.
Yeah, oppressive power dynamics is what we are trained into looking like. It looks like a win, right? So it looks like winning when we're getting power over, as opposed to a collaborative energy where what is in good for me, which takes our ego out of the equation. But what's in good for me is truly in service to all of us, is to tend to the whole. And it looks like surrendering your own attachment to your ego's desires of what accomplishment and achievement looks like, and questioning, why do we want to achieve that thing? Like really in the roots of it. So do I want notoriety and recognition because it'll help me do more service? Or do I want it because like I feel invalid a little and I need some validation?
Let's poke this one then, because I'm thinking fine lines. Today is day one of a free Facebook training that I'm doing for 12 days. It's a 12-day container on helping people embody conscious conflict and deepen their connection with themselves and the people that they love. And the door opens today. First video went out today. We run some ads. It did really well. We got a lot of people in, and then nobody comments on the video, right?
Okay.
And I find myself throughout the day becoming distracted, wanting to check, but also feeling like it's pulling me below the line. Like I'm being dragged from abundance to, actually, let me rephrase that. I think that ordinarily I come from scarcity. That's like kind of like my groove.
Yeah.
And I try very hard to get above the line into consciousness and presence. But today, because of this thing, or I'm certainly blaming this thing, I'm finding it more difficult to get above the line, right? With me so far?
I am. I'm hearing vulnerability, like putting yourself out there is vulnerable, no matter what it was. I mean, we can look at it in more of a commerce relationship, and I'm happy to go there. But go ahead.
I'll explain like what's going on for me in these fine lines. Yeah. So when I think about, what's going on for me right now, and this is really important because back when I was drinking, something like this would lead me to go drink, right? So that's why I'm talking about these type of things. What's going through me is a part of me saying to myself that is a need for external validation. That is wrong. Lee, you need to look at that and fix that as a wound, right? That's one thing going through my head. Then there's another thing going through my head going, damn it, I really want to help more people. Why isn't anybody commenting on the video? If they do, I can help them. There's that. And then there's another one that's going through my head is, damn, you made a mistake on the video. You've made it too complex and you want them to go too deep and they're not ready to do it. Why didn't you just make it more simple? So and then there's another part, which is, holy shit, if nobody comments on this video, I've wasted my ad spend because actually nobody's going to buy any products because nobody's interacting. So there's the business side of it. There's the internal mess shit kind of like shadow side of it. And then there's in my heart, I just really want to fucking help people side of it. Like, it's complicated, right? So how do you suggest I deal with that kind of like montage?
So you're jumping number one before you know really the end result of this challenge. It's a 12-day thing, right? Maybe.
Yeah, I'm on day one.
So that's my first thing. Number two, whenever we have an action, right? The Bhagavad Gita is it's a book. Well, I won't go into that, but anyway, the teaching from Krishna, it says, if you need to surrender the fruit of the action. So let go of the attachment to the outcome, because when we are in divine true alignment, when we are taking spiritually aligned action, whatever was your impetus, maybe to make money, and maybe sometimes we find out through testing if what our original intention versus I've totally put out workshops and like it's been a no. And the frequency behind it for myself, it wasn't in alignment, and that's okay. Right. Because it's like tweak, test, polish, as we've been taught. Right. So we have to figure that out. But when we are truly in service, we are doing the action without attachment to the result of the action, because we know the art that we're putting out into the world, whatever the action is, the act itself is doing. Like, I don't know how many people are watching my videos and having their lives change that I have no idea, because I'm not getting any feedback from. Right. And it was like that for a number of years. And then there's some things where it's like, I'm really helping people. And then sometimes I feel I receive input from that, but it's always the things that I'm the least attached to that get the most amount of feedback, I find.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I've been thinking about that, leading up to coming. I had a meditation before I came on here to talk to you, trying to connect you, Michelle, through the ethereal. But this thing kept coming up to me, and I'm just like, this is what I said to myself. I was like, Lee, just let it go, man. The video is top quality. Someone is going to learn from it. Let it go, and then we will test, tweak, polish, and we'll keep on going until we get to a position where we can really help a lot of people. It's just a matter of time. Detach yourself from it. What I'm curious though is, as somebody who always talks with such pride that I'm not a part of the collective consciousness, that way of thinking is a part of the collective consciousness. There's some part of my spirit that seems to be attached to it that I just don't really seem to be able to unplug from.
It's never going to go away.
All right. So I just got to learn to be at peace with it.
No, okay. So Ram Dass has this quote where he said, do you know who Ram Dass is by any chance?
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously he's spent time in the caves of the Himalayas. I mean, like, he had an actual literal guru, right? He got the real direct source, but he said no matter how much meditation he did, none of his neuroses ever went away.
Okay.
And there are things, so in using him as an example, like Western culture, like, is in us. And so you're talking about capitalism, wanting our businesses to do well, like the fact that we even have law of attraction and scarcity and abundance in our vocabulary. Like, there are people in this world that don't think like that. They're closer to the earth. So these are the things that are in the collective conscious of America, of our Western society. And they do 100% permeate our spirit and our being. We use our spiritual practices, meditation. I talk about vocal toning in my work. I talk about the alchemy of the voice, using the chakras, because when I chant a mantra, I am calling on a force that is ancient and that is beyond my need for Instagram likes. Do you know what I mean? Or validation or personal anything. There's no person. There's no need for achievement here when I'm attuned to the oneness of all that is. And that was why for a long time in my spiritual path journey, I was hidden from the world a lot, because I kept disconnecting from society, because I saw that it took me off my center and got me caught in the trap of that world of like, well, now I'm chasing this thing. And so I would go back into like my little meditation bubble. I lived at the beach for a couple of years, and I would just be like, because I would feel bigger when I was more attuned to the infinite, right? Obviously, than when I was on Facebook. And for me, it's been this dance of how do I maintain, like, maybe I'll have a day of silence tomorrow. I'm going to the beach to that, so I can just like attune to nature and myself and my own psyche. and then come back and bring the medicine of my work and play the game in this world that we live in.
So interesting you said that. The concept of me going away and being in silence for the day is terrifying, because I don't know if I could be silent for a day. And two, I would tell myself and convince myself I don't have time to do it because I have so much stuff to do. But I'm thinking about you saying that, and you're, like I'm thinking about instant gratification, short-term thinking, short-term lens versus long-term lens. What you just said then sprung me straight into long-term thinking. It's like, think about the long-term game. Right now, you need to kind of like fill up your stores of power, your stores of energy, get your shit right. Because while it's just, it's like Preston, right? Like, don't just fill your cup, make sure it's overflowing and then give from the overflow. So what you're saying is go away into silence, fill your cup till it's fucking flowing everywhere, then come back and give it to everyone, which is different to me just being here with a half empty cup, trying to give everything to everybody, which means no one will show up.
Yeah, everything is frequency, right? So what everybody is wanting from you. So I could say a million wise things, but what people will take as powerful from me is my transmission of energy. So if tons of people are speaking a lot of very right truths in a very superficial way, and maybe that resonates for some people, but like the silence behind the words, the vibration, that is what is helpful, I feel, to another person. Again, Ram Dass, he has a quote. It says, "All I can offer you is my being." And so same for all the people that you help, is like you do, like the more that you're attuned, it doesn't have to be silence. It can just be like personal self-care. You can be like walking and listening to a podcast, but whatever does replenish, attunes you. I use this word attunement all the time. It's like attune your own vessel, your frequency to yourself, to your heart, to yourself, your true self. And then that stuff about the outer world, it's going to matter less because your heart is full. If you, and there's so many challenges, right, with feeling that self-love, because I just complete transparency. I'm not like diagnosed with anything, but my swings are very high and very low. And so I can be in complete divine connection and complete self-love. And in February, I was doing a lot of shadow work. I felt completely disconnected. And in my journal, I was like, I hate myself right now. So like, I'm not immune to human freaking emotion. Like your
neurosis is still there.
They're not only there, they come around the corner sometimes and punch me in the face.
Punch you in the face. I like it.
And then I have to be like, holy shit, and like get myself out of the hole. But also I've cultivated a capacity to like breathe and feel my heart and feel my connection to God and cry. So like they both exist in me. They probably both exist in all of us, to some degree. Right. So, but when I can have the bandwidth to like disconnect from business life and like feel my heart, and then all those things that are then I do get a ton of messages. It just happened like last week, actually. I was like, I'm getting like so much feedback right now, and I really don't care. And that's funny because there's all these other times where I'm like really needing it and it doesn't come.
There always seems to be need at the moment anyway. I've created this story that there always needs to be a spark. So I swing from like I said to you, I think my natural tendency is to come from scarcity. I have to try really hard to be everything that I want to be. What gets me there? If I just have an interaction with just one person, all of a sudden, take this new Facebook group, for example. At some point, someone is going to be like, "Hey, I'm Michelle from so-and-so," right? And all of a sudden I light up. So I need to find more consistency and lighten myself up. I think that's my journey.
Sure. Self-care. Yeah. And also ask questions to these people, and build a relationship. Like I would love to ask you, like you said, I come from scarcity. You've said that a couple times. Like, do you want to talk about that? Like, what is that for you that you're like, just because you mentioned it twice?
Well, I think from what I've learned and what I've read and my own personal experience, there's two elements of it. There's a story and then there's the biology, right? So, I was reading, I actually read his book a long time ago. So Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. I read it a long, long time ago, but he was reading another book where I think it might've been the 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership, actually, where they talk about above the line and below the line thinking. And I think they reference Goleman in saying that as, anthropologically, we do come from below the line, from fear, judgment, desperation to be right, because being wrong meant we were dead. So there's that biological aspect of it, but then there's also the story element of it that says that I think back through my life, and I can see and I can feel, and my feedback confirms that I have a deep groove when it comes to pessimism, cynicism, misery, sarcasm. So my work is always like getting like my first instinct is to feel low or to feel down or to feel suspicious. My work is to change that. So I still get that first feeling, but I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Fuck off. Right now, where's my divine energy? Where's my bigness in me? Come on, let's overtake this thing. So it's a bit of both.
I love that. I love how you said that. I was thinking, I like your fuck offness, because I was thinking like, oh, well, like then you can be there and that's cynical, but you can also integrate humor. I think is like a nice medicine antidote for like the bitchy part of us, like it's.
Yeah, I do love that part of myself. Like before I did my meditation, before I spoke to you, I did an hour and a half where I led our group meeting. So my community Strive, we did we have a meeting every Friday at 12, and I did 90 minutes. And I was asked the question, when did I develop the confidence to go to people who could provide me with value and just straight out build relationships with them? Like almost in a almost like in a mechanistic way. Like, there's Michelle. I really like her vibe. I like her energy. I think she can help me in my life grow, whether that be in business, life, whatever. I'm going to befriend her. So almost like, like we used to when we were young, and we were friends. We think it just happens. That there's this magical chemistry. It just happens. Well, now I'm 46. I think I'm 46. Now I'm 46. I don't want it to just happen. Like I want to seek out people who I think can provide me with value and be friends with them. That doesn't mean I'm going to be disingenuous. So if I put myself out to befriend you, and then I'm like, oh, I really don't like Michelle's energy, I'm not going to continue to be my friend just because you've got great connections. I don't like your energy, right? And one of my group members said to me, where did you get that ability from? And I said, well, it actually comes from my shadow side. My desperation for external validation means that I will put my hand up. You've been in and around me in coaching containers. Sure. I will want to put my hand up and be seen, not just purely because I want to add value. I want to be seen. So the shadow part of me is, hey, look at me, hey. So actually going to somebody who I might have otherwise put on a pedestal is part shadow, but I have to love that, because that builds me some really strong connections, which I never would have had if I didn't have that shadow.
That's beautiful.
So I like to look at myself as like the yin and yang, the black and white. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to love both aspects of that and see how my neurosis and how my wild swings can make me a beautiful human being.
I love it. It's like a multidimensional, you're like, oh, there's beautiful integration. That's like integrating, Yeah.
Well, it's a lot better than trying, like you just said, trying to get rid of something you can't get rid of.
Well, but the scarcity, so the way that your tone was when you mentioned the scarcity, and even how your face just dropped when I said that, that's not something I feel that you've done that quite yet with. So I would invite to say, like, how do we even, like me, I have my own version, but for some reason yours is speaking at the moment, is like, how would you then understand the shadow? Could it be like you have a drive, your ambition, because the scarcity is there, it actually fuels your passion for, I don't know, your creativity, your business, whatever. What would you say for yourself for that? Or is it painful and it's hard to look at those things? Because it is sometimes.
For me personally, pain has never blocked me. It's like psychological and emotional, physical pain has never stopped me looking at these things. It's ignorance that stops me looking at them. So I'll always maintain I'm an open book. I'll go anywhere, but I'll have my blind spots because I'm ignorant of them. Sure. And my subconscious might be trying to protect them. But once a skilled practitioner or a coach or a leader or a priestess gets in there, I don't feel pain. I feel liberation. I feel freedom. I feel tears of a combination of sadness and joy. Like I erupt. You see me. I cry. Like I'm a crier, right? Like when somebody gets me to see something that I don't see, I cry. Like that's the thing with me. I lost my train of thought. There was something I was going to say around this.
So it's scarcity. So how can you take the shadow side of how that is like implanted in you from your biology and from your lived experience? And how can you nurture that so that it becomes a beautiful growth, just like you spoke about your need for validation is actually allowing you to connect with others?
I mean, what I'm doing at the moment, and I've been doing for a long time very successfully, is I and I'm sure there are other ways of doing it, but I call upon my masculine around structure.
Uh-huh.
So every 2 hours I check in with myself every 2 hours. I write down how I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, who's triggered me. And then I sit with that and I ask myself why. Mm-hmm. And that enables me then to flip scarcity into wholeheartedness or abundance, or be okay to sit in the scarcity and be okay with that. Mm-hmm. But whilst all that is going on, it's just continually reflecting on how scarcity shows up, and then accepting that part, like accepting all of my emotions, all of my thoughts. Mm-hmm. Emotions I own, thoughts, not all of them. I'm kind of I don't know, if I have a random thought that I want to have sex with my sister, like I don't like beat myself up that's my thought. I just say to myself, oh, that's a bit weird. Where did that thought come from? That right? But if I'm sad, then what I'm learning is, okay, like I'm sad, like let's be super sad. What does it feel like? What? And you know what? Like a lot of times when I say to myself, how do I feel? Where is it? Where's the sad? It fucking disappears. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, it's almost like when I'm looking, like where did that thought come from? I don't fucking know. Where's this emotion? But I can own emotions and feelings, not so much thoughts. I think I hope I'm making sense. So yeah, it's structure. I need structure. I can't just say to myself, I'm going to meditate and I'm just going to naturally flip. Okay. Although the structure might lead me there in the future, maybe. Can
I link two things that may I speak to what I saw in your field, in your energy field? I want to link two things for you. So a masculine, especially a masculine identified male being, as you are, I would say. And it's beautiful that you have your emotional capacity and bandwidth and all of those things. Facing death is a huge part of, it's always like you're at battle, at war with death. I feel like, and you're also a provider. And I know about you that you have a family. And I think this I think this conversation of scarcity is a pressure for you that is really like death. Like it's almost like, because it's nothingness, right? Like to have nothing, to have no resources, to tap out. It would be like you dying in your role of being a provider and the pressure that you feel for providing for your family. So that's why it's a constant thing. It's like chasing you down, like death chases a man down. So it's like this thing that you're always at war with. You're always facing it. You're always fighting it. And so you're battling it off somehow. It's like your warrior opponent is scarcity in some way. That's what I saw in your
when you first started talking to me, I wrote some things down on my notepad here. I wrote collective consciousness, power over, why do we oppress women? And I wrote ego death. Ego death. So when you're saying I'm dying, what I link to is I'm terrified, and it's also my goal to kill my ego.
Yeah.
That is a constant battle I'm in, and a battle that my resistance does a very good job at making me forget that I'm in that battle. What do I mean by that is, yesterday I went downstairs and I said to Liza, would you like me to make you a cup of tea? It's a bid for connection. And Liza said, for fuck's sake, I can't even get through a fucking video without someone interrupting me.
Oh no.
My immediate response that was in my head was a desire to shame her over what she said, to make me feel better and to give me power over her. That's what came up, right? I didn't want to say that though. I then had a battle with myself saying, no, she's obviously really stressed out right now. Be there for her. Hold her space. Ask her if there's anything wrong. But I really didn't want to do that. My ego didn't want to do it. I want to kill this thing. I don't want to be thinking like that. But there is some self-protection mechanism in there that is saying, no, Lily, you fucking get rid of me. You cut me out and you're going to fucking stop breathing. It's like there was this X-Men TV show. I can't remember what it was called now. It was such a great metaphor. This X-Man who had psychic powers, he had this entity trapped in his mind that wouldn't allow him to be himself. But if he got rid of him, he would die. It's that's what I'm thinking of right now, you know?
It's like the ghost in the machine or something like that. It's like the little being that lives inside the
it's how do I guess my journey is like,
do you show that? I have a question coming through. Do you have do you show that you're hurt when that happens? Do you show like how?
Well, I do for my anger.
Yeah. Okay. That wouldn't be.
No.
That would be no.
No.
So lashing back out, right? So, but actually being like, "Ow, baby, okay, yeah, sure. Do you need space? I'm sorry, you know, like, but like, ow, like, just to reveal like the truth of your heart that like that was."
No, always comes from anger. This morning, like my accountant ignored me for the 5th day straight, and anger drove me to leave him a message explaining how I felt. So the vulnerability and feeling I'm through your behaviors right now, I am making myself feel like a little child, like I'm lost, like I have no control. I'm angry, I'm annoyed, I'm frustrated, but that comes from anger. Like
you're speaking about it on like from an intellectual space.
Yes.
You're like saying like, this is, I am angry and these are the things that's healthy.
I need to give this person feedback on how I feel, because if I give this person feedback on how I feel, that might tap into his feelings and he may change his behavior.
Beautiful.
We interrupt this discussion between Michelle and Lee to bring you an important newsflash. The Stride Method for Addictions is a 6-month powerhouse of an experience that helps you learn how to stop drinking and live a kick-ass life. If you're interested in joining the latest group, and we've got one open right now, then email us at 1kdaysober@gmail.com. Now back to Michelle and Lee.
So that's not wrong. I mean, that's beautiful. You're not like yelling at them and lashing out. You're like,
no. It was a calm message because I knew if I shouted at him, then he's not going to hear me.
Okay, so that's good. And so then, you know, I don't know if you want to do this with your accountant so much, but like to say like, I'm hurt at you, but you could. But with your wife, definitely. Not to give you marital advice, but you in relationship, I am learning that revealing the truth of your heart is simultaneously the hardest thing to do, because we want to be defensive or we want to be like, fuck you, and like take it back, like just like you were saying. But like, it's actually, you will know the truth of your partner with how they respond when you authentically let them know that was painful.
I do that well.
Okay, yeah. Beautiful.
You usually, I do it better post rupture.
Yeah.
but it's unusual for one to get by me, and I haven't dealt with it. I'm not afraid of expressing how I feel. That wasn't always the case, though. I did a 3-hour podcast with David Burns and Jill Levitt, the Feeling Good podcast. Like, David Burns is awesome. And they found a weakness in me that I was not very good at expressing how I felt. Like,
they said that?
Yeah. They kept pushing me and asking me, and I just kept screwing up what just seemed to be really simple thing for me to say, and I couldn't do it. But now, yeah, I think in my evolution of where I am today, I feel super comfortable with that. But I am still hyper aware that there is this monster there, but it's losing its power. Like the more woke I become, the more time I spend above the line, the more present I am, the more I hang around with people like you, the more I seek out new mentors to keep me growing. The voice and the presence is getting quieter. And how do I know that? Feedback. The way that my wife behaves with me, the way she connects with me, the way she looks at me, the way that she just flat out tells me, the way my daughter and my son engage with me.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah,
we're doing our best.
We're doing our best
on this human journey of evolution.
Yeah. I have a question for you. So recently, one of my community members, she was talking about how she had a memory of when she was drinking, that there were times where, like, she had a ritual of taking her daughter to bed and reading her a book. But she has this memory of choosing alcohol over that. So saying things like, or rushing the book, or not being present when she read the book, or saying, I don't have time to read tonight, whatever, lack of presence, right? And how her daughter gave her feedback that she remembers that and it hurt her. Yeah. And then as this beautiful woman was sharing this with the group, so many more people came up with their stories around how they also put alcohol ahead of their children. And then the question became like, I'm just curious in your input on this. It's like memory for first and foremost. Like, how true are these things, and like, where does confirmation bias play a role, and how do we kind of like, how do we are we creating this shit, or did this shit really have the impact we think it did? And then the most important thing, I guess, is how do we just get through it? How do we just say, like for me, where I am right now, I can say to myself, yes, I did that. I'm willing to let that go. I'm willing to let that go. Now, that seems really straightforward. That's where I am right now. I'm willing to let it go. What about someone who keeps holding on to it? He's not willing to let it go.
Yeah, my mom talks about that with things with her. I mean, you're talking about childhood trauma, right? Like, just things that we do as parents or we receive as children, and it's kind of, it feels endless. There's an endless cycle of handed down trauma. In astrology, and I've heard this before, our childhood trauma mirrors our past life trauma. And I see this with my clients. And so we actually incarnate into, if you believe in past lives, of course, for those listening, but we incarnate into a family that's going to mirror back certain needs not getting met, that is similar traumas, because we're on a karmic cycle of healing. So some of it is kind of not in our hands, right? In the sense of it's fate, let's say, or, it's fate that we get certain wounds, because then we are, our path, our journey is actually to heal those things. So that's kind of the predestiny part of that. And then there's the very real, I love that you just said that you're able to forgive yourself. I mentioned my mom because my mom mentions things to me about really random things that didn't actually faze me, that actually upset her, that she still has a guilty conscience for. But there are things that, I do think it's completely real, because there are things that, I remember putting the pillow over my head when my parents were arguing, and I can see in my relationships with men about definitely the parental trauma that my father was abusive to my mom. I mean, and talking about healing and becoming I I am helping heal. I talked about it at the beginning, the wounds of the masculine and feminine. I mean, like I was given karmically an abusive patriarchal father who was also very strong, very artistic, almost a genius, but had kind of a split like personality. It wasn't alcohol, but it was his own trauma and his own wound that would cause him to kind of go into a dissociated state and then literally just be a demon, basically, like legit. And yeah, that definitely impacted my own ability to trust the masculine and my ability to have confidence in myself, which is why I now teach vocal empowerment. My ability to understand the feminine by seeing like my mother and how all of her relationships, she's had very toxic relationships, and really, but now I'm on this journey of understanding a different paradigm of masculine and feminine relating that actually doesn't quite exist on this world in the broad scope. And I'm an embodiment of it. Like I carry myself in a way, like I remember the first time that you reached out to me, and obviously you in a public space, you're quite brash, and you kind of throw your energy around, a little cocky, right? And then the first time that you addressed me, you wrote it like a letter. And I thought that was so, I was so like, that is the thank you. Like, I was so like, that was so respectful. And I felt that you felt who I was and you came to me with that respect. And that's from years of inner work on my part and also your part, that when we met, you came to me with dignity. Like you didn't just you weren't just like, you didn't throw around any energy at me. You like invited me to speak with you. And that was gorgeous. And that is the new paradigm. And it's hard sometimes in our closest relationships with the people that we see every day to not just want to like just attack them and punch them like all those things. Because I have that in me too, like that warrior where we're just like, shut up, get off. So anyway, yeah.
Okay, so let me just digest that a second.
Yeah, I kind of went a little like all through all the ethers with that. But
so there are wounds that have. Yeah. So obviously, what we're talking about here is with this woman in question, she has a wound. Mm-hmm. So what do we do to
self-forgiveness? Is that what you're asking for this woman who?
Well, let me throw something at you. So I had Neil Donald Walsh on as a guest recently, right? And he was on the same lines of my thinking, which helped me. It's like when you have a thought and then somebody else kind of has the same thought. So I don't think I believe in forgiveness as much as I do as understanding.
Okay. So
the advice or the invite that I gave to this beautiful member of my community was, could we create an understanding of why we did what we did and be okay with that understanding? And if we're okay with that understanding, then what is there to forgive? So let me give you an example. When I was drinking, my son never wet the bed until one day he did, when me and his mom were so drunk that we were not able to attend to him when he was crying, right? Now, I could, if I want to, turn that into a big, massive shame ball and just abuse myself on and on and on and on and on. Or I can say to myself, well, can you understand why that happened? And I'm like, yeah, I was a complete and utter jerk trapped in this collective consciousness who felt and thought that it was perfectly acceptable to drink as much as I was drinking whilst my son was upstairs sleeping. I thought it was perfectly acceptable to try to fry eggs when I'm in a semi-state of blackout with a young toddler upstairs. Do I believe that is right and correct behavior? No. But can I understand why I was in that spot? Yeah. So do I need to forgive myself? No, I get it. I understand why I did it. And that's enough for me.
You have massive self-acceptance. You should teach.
Yeah, this is the thing. Why can't this be enough for everybody else? Is it a payoff?
We don't. I think that one of my growths in this lifetime is self-acceptance. I think that one of the shadow sides of spirituality is religious dogma of needing to constantly have an exalted way of being. So if I didn't hold myself with the highest vibrational, slipping into humanity basically is not allowed. When you have a priestess lineage, lifetime after lifetime, shamanic, whatever it is, like you are meant to, or you hold a certain frequency. And if you succumb to lust, if you indulge anything, then you're training basically in some way. You've let fall. So it's like a warrior falling from grace or falling out of alignment. That's one way of living in the world. And there's another way of being a human being and recognizing exactly what you said. You're like, I don't have expectations that are otherworldly for myself. I see where I was and I have deep self-acceptance. And there is a spectrum of whatever the person are, their paradigm, their worldview, or their expectations of themselves, or their parents' expectations of who they are meant to be in this world, or who they feel like they are in this world, and then shaming themselves for not meeting their own expectations. For me personally, that's a huge thing that I am constantly. I mean, I was just overwhelmed with it like a few weeks ago. Like in February, I did a lot of shadow work where I was like, I should have been, I have to make a choice, and it should have already, I should have already chosen. Like I can't, me getting in my head and disconnecting from my center and then shaming myself for the fact that I do that and I've done it. And I see that pattern all the time. Like, so deep self-acceptance. I have noticed, I don't know if it's true. I don't know if the sentence is true, but I know men who are more accepting of themselves than I know women who are. I see it taught, modeled to me by other men more that often.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things coming up for me there. Is on one hand, life's a dance, right? On one hand, I can see actually how self-acceptance can come from your ego and from below the line, because if you're going to be operating from a starting point of self-centeredness and ego and look at me, then you're going to be needing a lot of understanding as you start trampling over people's fucking toes, right? Yeah. So if I can be super duper self-accepting of everybody, accepting of everybody else, right? And show a massive self-acceptance of myself, then when I need it from people, I'm going to expect it. So it's like, hey, universe, I'm just going to have massive self-acceptance, a massive understanding of everybody. And then when I need it, I'll get it back. There's that element I'm thinking of. There's also an element of shame and self-acceptance. So an example that I've used before on the podcast, when my daughter recently got attacked by a dog, and lots of people wanted, I don't know, like a slits. Actually, this is like I felt that a lot of people were slipping into vengeance, revenge, and those people didn't think they were, but I felt they were. But for me, myself, I just wanted complete and utter understanding of it. This is a dog. Dogs do what dogs do. I'm understanding everything about the owner and their behavior, even though I don't agree with it. And I'm done with it, and I'm okay to move on. But there was a shame element of, no, Lee, you have to be angry. You have to show people you're angry, because if you don't show you're angry, then what does that say about you? Your daughter just had her face bitten by a dog. You must be sad. You must be upset. You must show everybody that you care. But I was thinking, I care because I have understanding, and I want to use that. I want to free up that energy to care for my daughter. I don't want that energy locked up in revenge and vengeance and worrying and thinking of, it's done. It's fucking over. You know?
I agree with you, actually. Like, there's nothing you could possibly do about what happened in the past. So why hold that? There's a metaphor with the Buddha thing. Like, the two Buddhas are picking up the girl and then they carried across the river. It's like, I put her down a long time ago, you know, and the Buddha's like, you could touch the woman. You know, he's like, you're the one who's still carrying her. Like, don't listen to other people.
There was a movie like that as well, where they kept carrying all their luggage around with them. What was that movie?
I didn't see it, but that's beautiful. But yeah, it's the same thing.
All throughout the movie, they had all this luggage. Everywhere they went, they had all this luggage.
Yeah, you can't live like that.
And it reminded me of my mom when I got divorced, like 10 years ago now. She said to me, Lee, you're fucked. Like, you're always going to be a guy with baggage.
Oh.
And I always remember the movie. You know, I was like, oh yeah, that she thinks I'm that guy.
Well, we are.
Yeah.
We all are. The baggage in my work, I teach the baggage. The wounds can be wisdom. The medicine, there is a gift. The baggage that we have, it sucks, and there's something in it. Like we just spoke about, like the lineage and the karma. Like there's a medicine there. Usually, like the alcohol for you, like now you transmuted that into something where you're creating containers for others who have that same affliction, right?
Yeah,
so
that energy that energy used to be used in the chaos, which is alcoholism. That life, you know, like it's not even alcoholism. Like that energy was caught up in the collective consciousness. It wasn't mine. It's like I didn't own it. It's like I had to borrow parts of it from the collective consciousness. And then when I could rip 90% of my soul away from it, then all of a sudden I've got more energy and I'm able to create, I'm able to inspire, I'm able to do these different things.
But you would have never been able to do this work had you not been impregnated by the wound of it. Had you not like felt it viscerally been there?
No.
That's like the wounded healer. It's like the journey for a lot of beings in this world right now, or in the circles that we run in, where it's like, this is, you know, we have these wounds and then they become our medicine for the collective.
Yeah. This morning, I have a relationship course called Connection. And this morning I was doing a piece for it, an assignment on it, on Catabasis from Ian John. And, you know, I was saying in the video that I was doing, you know, how amazing is it when we develop the awareness to look around and see that we're fucking wallowing in shit. We're in the ashes. It's everywhere. We're the lowest. We're in the basement and we can see it. But we got a pick in our hand and we know that we're here to mine for gold. And how different that is versus, I ain't got fucking clue where I am. I actually think I'm in the turret of the castle with gold flowing hair that I got all my shit together. Like, where would you rather be? Like, up there, tapped into the collective consciousness, not a fucking Scooby-Doo what's going on, or down in the fucking shit where at least you've got awareness and you're like, wow, this is where I'm going to fucking grow. This is where everything is going to spring. I just need a little seed. I need a watering can and fucking watch this shit go up, right? You know? So that's like, yeah, every time we get wounded, every time we say, it's all coming round. Okay. The striver who said about the incident with the kid, right, with the reading, full circle, right? In that moment, there was a seed dropped, you watered it. Now, many, many years later, you are able to share that story and help and inspire other people that it is okay. That it is okay to share stories like that and be vulnerable. And it doesn't mean you're a terrible mother. It means you're a mother, right? 100%.
And for her to say that, because when my mother says to me things that are just like, you know, I did this, I did that, I did that, that's a relationship building. Just to even say, like, I didn't have that consciousness then, but I do now, and I'm sorry. Like, when we have anyone, whether it's our parents or anyone, come to us with that. I've had people apologize to me, like, oh, I'm sorry about this, this, and this. That's no joke. when they're like, this, I was triggered because of all of these things and I'm sorry. Like that is really, it's humbling and beautiful.
It's a great practice. Yes, yesterday I was downstairs and I just started the elementum training with Preston and Lexi.
Are you doing that? I was going to do that. My being put me into a different space.
Yeah, I started this week, and there was one thing that they said was, we're always judging people, which was in my awareness, right? We're always judging people. And they said, like when you're in a container with someone and you're doing some coaching and you start judging them, then just have a pause and almost like forgive yourself, like for doing it. Like just be okay with the fact, just grow awareness. If you have a good relationship with the person you're in, like mention it to them as well, if you really wanted to, right? And then I was like, wow, I've never thought of that before. So I went downstairs after watching the video, and there was leftover food after dinner, and I went to put it in a load of Tupperware, and Liza's like, no, don't put the broccoli in a plastic container. And I immediately went, I went so judgmental. Like I was like, what the fuck? In my head, in a nanosecond, what the fuck's wrong with this person? There was a real status thing that was going on. I picked up the plastic containers. I said, well, what the fuck are they even doing in the house? I threw them in the bin, right? And then I just said, what are you doing? And then I just was like, and all this was going on in my head, mind, right? And then I just walked over and I said, hey, I just really judged the shit out of you in my head. And she's like, why? And I said, I don't know, around the plastic containers, but I did, and I'm going to figure it out. And she's like, okay, thanks. And just carried on playing with Zia. And I thought, and it felt like the germ that gets in there, it wasn't there.
Right. Because you brought awareness to it.
Yeah, I didn't even let it come in. Like, do you know what I mean? Well, I guess it did come in because of the way I behaved, but then it was just quickly fucking have that, give it an elbow, get out of the way.
It sounds like you're doing a lot of, what the words that were coming was like emotional labor, but like you're doing a lot of work, like even in your relationship, like to make yourself like not a toxic environment. Like your impulses are impulsive, right? But then like you catch yourself like a lot. Like there's been multiple times where in this conversation where you're talking about like this happened and I was like, grr, but then I switched. And that's really, it's really, eventually you won't be like grr. And maybe into your 50s, right? Like as like it's just a path of maturity and slowing, the men like that it soften a bit, with age and mature, and like the warrior staff that we have where we're going to kill everything and kind of, we put it to the side and like, then you're wiser and slower. And so I love hearing that you're so devoted to your practice of you're like also in complete inquiry of like, well, why do I do that all the time? Or why does this happen? But just it happening and you pulling yourself back to your center constantly is anybody's practice. Like all of us are doing the same thing. Maybe my impulses don't come out as loud,
Yeah. You haven't got that cockiness.
It's just a different expression. Well, if you talk to my ex-boyfriend, he would say that I'm quite the wrathful deity.
Yeah, I don't like it when people. It's a real trigger for me actually when people say, "Don't be too hard on yourself." It just fucking winds me up because I'm like, I'm not.
You're not. I am. People tell me, they're like, "You're very hard on yourself," and I'm like, "Yeah, I've been told that."
Right. Yeah, I'm deflecting it. I'm like, no, I just like to know the answer. I just like to grow.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say one thing that you mentioned there. I think you posted on your Instagram about the difference between getting and giving.
I did.
And I think we're in a real advantageous standpoint when it comes to growth when we're giving. Like everything you just said about me, and thank you for that. I received that. It's because I decided to use the power that was being used for drinking and chaos into helping other people. And the more you help other people, the wiser you become and the more experienced you become, and the more you have to step up. How can I lead people if I'm not growing?
I've never quite thought of it that way. That's interesting.
Hmm.
Like the more that I help others, the wiser I become. That sounds cool.
Yeah,
I never thought about it that way.
Because you know, it's like what they said this in the leap we was in. They're saying it now in Elementum. Don't try to teach people what we're teaching you until you fucking get it, right?
Yeah.
So me, I want to get there quickly. So in order to get there quickly, I need to fucking practice it every day. How do you practice it every day? Living.
Mm-hmm.
By upsetting people and learning from people and listening to people and getting feedback from people. And do you know how many women have contacted me when I did Kaboom and then the leap? How many women in that group contacted me and said, like, you really fucking triggered me, or you've triggered me? I was like, holy shit. It's a pattern here. Like, I'm triggering women, like, big time.
You've never gotten that feedback before in your life? Was that the first time?
Not that directly. I think I've had it passive aggressively, because nobody's probably been confident enough to say that. Mm-hmm. But in this,
got in a group of boss lady women, and they were just like telling you.
Yeah, they're just like, I just want you to know that you fucking triggered me. I just didn't like you, and now I've spoken to you. I don't feel that anymore. But it's feedback, right? You're able to go, okay, I need to test, tweak, polish that. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be triggering people. Not everybody. I want to be triggering people in a good way to get them inspired.
You know what I bet it was without really knowing what it was? There's such a difference between when we come from that need that you mentioned at the beginning, where we're speaking to be seen and to be validated. There's a frequency in that is it's usually a bit edgy. It comes off a bit indigestible, but sometimes we don't actually have the consciousness to like attune to like that. That's what that is. Like, no, we can't know in that moment. But then when the person comes from their heart, or when you would speak from your heart, then you're not there's no trigger, right? Unless the person has this personal wound that you're like poking or something like that. But I think the mix of where you were coming from in your vibration, because it's like, when you were speaking for attention versus actually like really contributing. This is a perfect metaphor for giving and getting. That's perfectly those things, because we're told to take all that we can from the situation. We're going to get our clients. We're going to do especially in the coaching industry, right? We're going to make $1 million. We're going to do all these things, right? As opposed to being attuned to like the deep service frequency of the work. Like, why are we here for healing? And I talked about power dynamic, oppressive power, right? Oppressive power is see me. And then I left the call or the interaction. And then I took something, I got something, I got my validation, I got my juices stoked. You know, the ego's been stroked in the most appropriate way. And now I won. It's a win, right? Versus, wow, I was able to actually speak something from my heart, and it served others in the group as well. My offering was an offering, and it actually took higher, it contributed. And then maybe, you know, Preston would take it and carry it, and then it would go on a roll, and it would be medicine for all. That's the highest. That's the game that I'm playing right now in my being, in my life and it takes a death. It takes a literal death of the ego of I have to surrender to how I want it to look. I might want it to look like a 30K launch, which I did. I wrestled with that. I was like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that. And spirit works through me and is like, you're going to focus on meditations. You're going to focus on sound healing. You're going to do insight timer meditations. You're going to do these podcasts. You're going to do XYZ, because it's not about me getting $30,000 in 5 minutes. It's about me being a conduit in a vibrational frequency of healing, and trusting that I will get enough, and I will get exactly what I need to hold, what I have the capacity for holding at the exact right moment. And the more that I attune myself to become an instrument and a channel of healing, the more one-on-one clients I will have, and my business will grow organically and maybe slower than my ego's timeline desires.
Yeah.
But it's in alignment with being a gift.
Yeah, you will be ready to receive whatever comes your way when you're ready to receive whatever comes your way.
Mm-hmm. And my dharma is to be a blessing. is to help, is to be a healer, is to be an offering for others. And so I can't force that into looking a societally successful way. I'm on a different path, and I have to honor that. And that also is painful. What? Go ahead.
I was going to say that I just wanted to acknowledge how brave and courageous that is. You remind me of part of the teaching that we do in my Strive Method for Addiction is this concept called resignation, which was first introduced to me by an evolutionary biologist called Jeremy Griffith. And he says that, there's this period where we're going from childhood to adolescence to teenage years, where we're kind of still rooted into Mother Earth, like the universe, that frequency. We haven't been tarnished yet by the collective consciousness, as it hasn't got us hold of us. And then at some point, we feel this intense pull towards it. Like, I need a drink too early. I need to fuck too early. I need to take drugs too early. I need to mess about. I need to paint my hair I need to do all these things to fit in to the collective consciousness. But I'm being really pulled towards Mother Earth. I don't want to go towards collective consciousness. But then what happens is, for a lot of us, me included, we resign and we say, no, I'm going to go with the collective consciousness. And it's almost like we fucking kill our soul and we sell it. And we go through the collective consciousness, right? And then the ones who do that, they have a great life. They think they're doing fantastic. They're having lots of sex. They're getting into lots of relationships. They're having a good laugh. But then when they get to 35, like I did, you realize that you are just being your false self and everything's falling apart and you don't have the skills and the ability to deal with it. Or you stick with Mother Earth, you go through your adolescence and it's painful. It is tough. It is difficult. You can't get in with a cool group. You are getting bullied. But when you get to 35, you fucking know what's going on. You've got your shit together, right? So when I see you, I think to myself, how courageous it is for you to look at the collective consciousness and say, nah, fuck you. I'm going to do this. Because it is so much easier. Our path of least resistance directs us to the collective consciousness. That's where our energy naturally flows. And you're like, no, this is what I'm going to do. It might not bring me 10 million bucks. It might be a difficult path, but I need to be true to my roots. And I really honor you for that. I really honor you for that.
Thank you. I was making the choice to not be in that program and all of that in February. That was a part of it. And it was really about my frequency as a healer and really listening. And it felt this in February, it felt like surrendering into the void, which I don't know if you've had any experiences with this, what the unknown truly feels like, and like falling into this nothingness. But in my masculine feminine development, when we experience trauma, we wall up, we like know how to warrior up. And I think in my vulnerable embodiment as a feminine creature who is, stepping into womanhood, truly. I mean, I'm 37 years old and I am a woman in a lot of ways. And in a lot of ways, I'm really becoming a woman. I think in my 40s is going to be a time where I mature in a way that I've never been mature in my life. And a big part of being a feminine leader is surrender. And so this is also what you're speaking of is there's a way in this world of masculine feminine leadership. It's like we took the toxic masculine paradigm and we boss ladied our way. And I know a lot of women, I know personally women, you know them too, who have overridden their softer selves in order to make money and keep up. And it works, but there's an emptiness there. And so this path that I'm on in this moment for this year that my soul wanted me to dive into was my own self-intimacy and my own surrender and my own femininity. And then how can I be an embodiment and a carrier of frequency and sound and a business, but keep to that, to anchor to so that I can be a leader who's in touch with her feminine in this world. That's going to be medicine for this earth. That's medicine for me, and it's going to be a grace to fully grow and mature and be able to like have both so anchored my masculine solidity and my good boundaries and my teacher self, and also my deep feminine heart.
Well, Michelle, it's been beautiful to have you on the show. I've really enjoyed our conversation. For anybody listening, get over to www.1000dayssober.com. Head to the podcast page. You'll see Michelle's got her own little podcast page there, and you'll be able to access her Instagram and everywhere else that she hangs out. And please, please, please check it out. Jump on a call with her. Do some work with her. Doing this work, it's test, tweak, polish ourselves. We have to keep trying lots of different people until we get someone that we're in attuned with. And I hope after listening to us rambling on for over an hour that you feel attuned to us. So thank you very much, Michelle. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, my honor. Thank you so much, Lee. I hope.
If you want to be somebody that doesn't drink alcohol or recover from any other addiction, improve your relationship with yourself and those that you love, or just want to learn to live a more conscious life, then here is what we can do to help you at 1000 Days Sober. Number one, we have a Strive subscription service, okay? So you pay a monthly fee, you come and join us, you come into our community, you get access to all our Marco Polo groups, you get access to our Kajabi group, you get access to content that you will not see in the public sphere, mainly by yours truly, but by other people in my network of friends as well. What else do you get? You get access to a weekly coaching call with myself, so you can get coaching, a one-on-one coaching with me on that weekly coaching call, and you get money off various different workshops and invites to lots of other free stuff. So that's our subscription service. You could do group coaching programs, okay? Right now we have 2 group coaching programs, both called the Strive Method. The first one is addictions, okay? And they last for 6 months. The relationship course also lasts for 6 months. We've got Strive Method for addictions, Strive Method for relationships. There are workshops, okay? Or you can work with me personally one-on-one, okay? You can work with me personally one-on-one. And if you want to get involved in any of that, then just head to www.1000dayssober.com and you will find everything that's going on there, okay? We have pages there on the website which will direct you in the right place and how to get hold of me, including a workshop space there as well. We're always running workshops, so you can sign up for those as well. Last but not least, if you do love this show and it has changed your life and you want to change the life of somebody else, tell somebody about it and rate and review it in your podcast provider. I would really appreciate that. If you want to just reach out to me, ask me a question, just email me, 1kdaysober.com, at gmail.com. Much love, everybody. Bye.